Coming up next on Get Caught in a Net.
Get caught in a net with Annette. For your mind, body, and soul. Get caught in a net with Annette. It's your intellectual radio show. Here to inspire you and encourage you to be your very best. Get caught in a net with Annette. Get caught in a net with Annette. For your mind, body, and soul. Get caught in a net with Annette. It's your intellectual radio show.
You are now tuned in to Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette, where your host, Annette Harris, analyze intriguing life questions and concerns, such as, do Christians suffer from mental illness? Have you wondered why they act abnormal? Or you may ask, what is really going on in their minds? Do you need Annette? Well, keep listening for a biblical understanding of the psychology of the mind.
With Annette. I better not try to sing that. Hey guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. Here is another segment for you of Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette, brought to you by GetcaughtinANet Incorporated. I'm your girl, your host, Annette Harris. I am the CEO of GetcaughtinANet Incorporated and also your certified positive mental health ambassador and now award-winning author of Surviving a Silenced Heartbeat. Listen, guys, I am so excited that you are here with us on today. I want to ask you that when you come in to please make sure you go ahead and click the share button, tag individuals in. I want everyone to know about what's happening on today, and I want you to meet my guest, wonderful young woman of God that I need you to meet. Before we get started, Lord, we thank you for all things. We thank you for what you've done, what you're going to do, how you're blessing and helping us, how you're leading and guiding us. And we pray that you would get the glory out of this segment, everything we go to say and do. In Jesus' name we pray. And the opening scriptures, the first part of Hosea 4:6, and it states, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. Now we are live on my Facebook page, Annette. Get Caught in a Net, and also Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. We're also live on Instagram at Get Caught in a Net and on YouTube, Get Caught in a Net Incorporated. At the end of today's segment, we're going to have this particular recorded session uploaded to Intellectual Radio's YouTube channel. So don't miss that. So there are a variety of ways you can always go back and look at today's segment if you're not able to watch it live for us. Let me bring in my guest. We have been featuring probably more often this year, this particular segment of Authors Unite to Get Caught in a Net. And as many of you know, I stated on last week, I have been afforded the opportunity to be able to be introduced and network with a number of authors. My brothers and my sisters, they've been out here writing like crazy, okay? And I love it. And there's so many different journeys that have been shared, experience have been shared through their writings and through their literary works. And I have just been, again, just so pleased to be able to meet them. And so I've had a number of them on my show on this week. And so with this month of December being the last month of the year, this is the final for this year only, Authors Unite to Get Caught in a Net segment. And I am so pleased to be able to feature this young lady in this segment at the end of this year. I'm going to bring on Miss Shana. How are you on this afternoon?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. I'm so glad we finally got this connection to be able to have you on here. I was afforded the opportunity to first meet you on your show, and we were doing the different media coverage for the DAG. Why was I getting ready to just say something else? But Distinguished Authors Guild, with the authors that were nominated, there were a lot of different segments that were happening, radio interviews, going up to the actual ceremony. And I was blessed, along with some of the other authors, to be on your show. And that's how I met you. And then listening to you and your journey, oh my God, I said, what? Okay, we got to have you on Mind, Body, and Soul. We got to have you come on and get caught in the net to tell everyone about who you are and what you have done. So I have a bio here for you. I love this title, this that you have been given: empowerment advocate and inspirational author. Woo wee! So you have two like different areas or fields that you have combined, and loosely it is based off of your life, or maybe not loosely. It is based off of your life, because this first portion of your
Right.
bio says your life took an unexpected turn when you confronted the harsh reality of domestic violence and grappled with four different health conditions. I think that's what grabbed my attention when you and I first met. And I said, and look at her, she's still going, she's still pushing. So I'm going to shut my mouth real quick and ask you, if you would not mind telling us who you are. If someone was to come up and ask you, or maybe you had a elevator pitch, to tell who you are, why don't you share with my listeners who Shauna is?
Absolutely. Hello, I am Shana Gourdine, better known as the lady behind the mask. I am your empowerment, your inspirator, and your motivator. And why I say that is because, with life, we tend to let loud life give us a twist. So, with my words of power, I use it to be an author, I use it to be a podcast host, and I use it to be a speaker and an advocate for domestic violence and chronic illness. I'm here to inspire you, motivate you, and empower you.
All right. That was her elevator pitch, y'all. I love it. I love it. But okay, now do me a favor. How do you pronounce your first name?
It's Sheena. It's spelled like Shayna, but it's pronounced Sheena.
Sheena. So Sheena. Okay, so forgive me, because I have an issue. I don't like mispronouncing anybody's name. I say your name is you, and I don't want to disrespect anybody in that aspect. So forgive me. So Shayna, right?
It's
And I was
okay.
saying Shana. Okay, all right.
Sheena. Look, think it's
Sheena,
like Sheena. Look, it's okay because the way
like
it's
a
spelled,
sheen,
people tend to
like
call
an oil
me
sheen.
Shayna.
Okay, all
Yep,
right,
like
okay.
Sheen. Hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna get this together today. Annette's gonna I'm gonna be all right. All right. So yeah, my goodness. Okay, so you gave us a brief description. I have a few questions here for you, but if you would not mind for me, telling me about that first line that I read about how your life took an unexpected turn. Um, I know that the month of October is dedicated to domestic violence awareness. I just did a talk on it, and I said, even though that month has been recognized as such, we need to address it year round, because it
Absolutely.
happens year round. Doesn't just happen in October, unfortunately.
Right.
So, talk to us about your background, your journey with domestic violence.
Absolutely. So about 10 years ago, shall I say 11, but I was actually confronted with it. I was actually pregnant with my daughter about 7 months, and I got thrown into a cabinet with my first incident with facing domestic violence. Along with that, I then, you hear the I'm sorries and the apologies, and I'll never do it again. And I'm about to be a mother too, so it's like, all right, I was the one that was blinded by love, and I took him back. But unfortunately, I was in my living room again, and I actually got, and correct word is strangled, standing up in front of my television holding my daughter. So I decided that enough is enough. But during this process, I didn't tell anybody. I kept it to myself.
Mm,
But along this journey, a lot of times when we don't talk about it, we don't heal through the journey, we end up back in a whole nother relationship. So
yeah.
going through life, you know how we do, we tend to tuck it, put the mess in the closet and like, oh, all right, I'm gonna be okay. I unfortunately got into another relationship as well and end up in another domestic violence relationship.
Oh.
When that happened, I actually dealt with getting dragged upstairs, strangled in my sleep, and actually was isolated and stalked for about 6 months when I tried to leave a relationship. During this time is when I decided to go to Unity House, and I went through the program of removing my address where I was, picking up where I lived, and starting all over for my kids' safety and mine, because I had a restraining order and everything against the abusive partner that I had. And they started popping up everywhere I went, irregardless on me calling the cops, getting them arrested, and all the et ceteras. It was like your life was on the line. So going through that, and during this process, as I was going through this and going through my healing, I found out about my conditions. So on top of dealing with domestic violence, I found out that I was dealing with fiber. Well, first it was ankylospondylitis, which is arthritis in my spine. It goes to the rest of my joints like rheumatoid arthritis. I also was dealing with fibromyalgia and found out that I had polycystic kidney disease, and also found out that I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. So, in the midst of going through all that, being a single mom and dealing with healing after trauma, I was dealing with this full circle. But life had unexpected ways of delivering you into your purpose. And that's what happened. Yes, it was a mess, but I made it into a beautiful story after the mess.
Phew. That's deep. That's a lot for one person to go through. Um, so you said in the midst of the domestic violence, you found out about your illnesses. May I ask, were the illnesses as a result of domestic violence or something else that was already going on? And I mean, how did you even get to find out about the illnesses? Was there any connection
Well,
there?
I was dealing with a lot of the fibromyalgia. We think domestic violence, because fibromyalgia is nerve damage. So we're thinking, nerve pain. So we're thinking the fibro may have, because, stress triggers a lot of things. But physicians, they said that I had it when I was born. It's just I got the adult version of them.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
So
Ooh, wait. All right. You touched on something when you mentioned going through the domestic violence. You did not share it with anyone. Why did you choose? And we hear that often. We do hear that often, where sometimes individuals are going through and they're suffering silently. They are dealing with these life altering situations, and so then they just continue to try and deal with it the best way they can. And it's not that they don't have anybody to talk to sometimes, and then sometimes it is, but what made you decide that you wanted to keep that to yourself?
at the time, it was just embarrassment, judgment. You know, a lot of times growing up, when I was from a small town called Cross, South Carolina, living in back in the boonies, cross, in the country, grew up in the church. Never expected it to happen, but life have their ways of showing up and things tend to happen. And I just didn't talk about it. I didn't tell anybody. I was too ashamed to tell my mom. I was too ashamed to say something to my dad or my sister or anybody. I just didn't want to get judged or be subjected to why did you stay or why did you let this happen? Because the people have the tendency to turn around and blame it on the victim as well sometimes, on you didn't see it happen or you didn't know this was going on or you didn't see the signs. But a lot of times, sometimes the signs are blindfold when you're looking at other things. And I've learned to now advocate for people to know the signs and to not settle for certain things. So, and I advocate for people to speak out, because suffering in silence can put you in a lot of situations as far as depression, suicide, and all these other things that come with it. And, a lot of times I got asked a question from my father or my sisters or my brothers, like, why did you say something? And I was like, I wasn't ready to share. And one, growing up, I was always the quiet one. I didn't talk a lot. Everything was words through words. And I never would speak up about certain things. So I wasn't comfortable talking about it.
Okay. Okay. And that's fair. And you just, stated you were typically the quiet one. So you were kind of following along what you normally do. Don't
Mhm.
say anything, be
Mhm.
quiet about it. But that you addressed the shame part. That's probably the hugest reason why individuals will not say anything, because they don't want anybody talking negative about them or making them think, okay, why in the world are you with him, or why are you still there, or I wouldn't let nobody do that to me. Now we can say that
Right.
all day long, right?
Right. Right.
Except you get into that situation and see how
It's
you really
different.
gonna react.
Correct.
We can talk all day long, but everybody's case is different. So, you don't want to, we don't want to look down on anyone. And, I think, when situations come out like that, um, that's why they tell people, don't look at them in a negative sense, the victims. Sometimes they come forward maybe later or
Mhm.
whatever. Why didn't you come forward before? Well, you just don't know,
Right.
what that person was dealing with mentally and everything else to even propel them to come forward. And um, again, everybody's different. I was going to say something else,
Right.
but everybody's different in how they handle it. So we cannot look down on someone, because of that. You know, um, on the flip side of that, let me ask you. And I have questions for you, but I'm going a totally different way. But let me ask you this. So when you mentioned that you didn't want to share with your mom, your dad, or your family or whatever, was it mainly on you though, the fact that you didn't want to share, or did you think that they're not going to understand themselves?
I think
I'm
it was
talking
mainly
about
on me. It was
family.
mainly on me. It was more me not wanting to talk about it. You
Okay.
know, one, you know, just saying one, I left home by my mom. I'm my mom's only child by my mother. By my father, I
Okay.
was the oldest girl. So, one, being my mom only daughter, calling her and telling her that I'm getting beat up, and that's gonna stress her in itself, you know.
Yeah.
And then two, I didn't want to be embarrassed. You want your mom to look at you a certain way. And like I said, I'm my mom's only kid, so I couldn't imagine telling her nothing like that.
Yeah. You're trying to spare her. You're trying to spare her
Yes.
the,
The
yeah.
the the tragedy that I was going through during the mission. Eventually I did, when I went down south and did my whole thing with my first book, because I did a whole like book signing and everything down south. So this is when my mother and my father actually found out. And they found out at my book event. Like, I didn't tell them personally. I think eventually, I think I did tell my mother. But with the full story and how it went and everything, they all found out. Everybody, family, everybody that came to my book event found out all at once when I had my book signing and talked about my book and talked about why I wrote the book and how I went, I went through, and had my speech. Like, I did this in front of about 70 to 100 people in front of them, and they all was looking at me like, wow, so yeah. I wrote.
Oh my. And I'm sure their hearts are probably going out to you at that moment. But that
Yeah,
was very
absolutely.
bold of you and brave of you to be
Right.
able to do that, to share, what you were dealing with, what you had dealt with, rather. I mean,
Yeah.
because at that point, you may as well have said it because it was going out to the world, right?
Listen, at that point when it already was to the world. So, me, because before I even did it, it already had hit the news and I had already did it at a play already. So, yeah, like the very first time I actually released my story and actually talked about it, besides the poetry that I wrote in the book, I stood on stage. I did this play called Secrets. And, I did the play and I was one of the speakers at the beginning of the play, and it was about 80 to 100 people, and I actually told my story in front of them when I first released my whole story. Then from there, probably about 3 months after I released in my book, and I had an article in the newspaper. We have this station called Spectrum News, which is a big cable station, which is our big news station that runs 24/7. And one of the anchors seen my story in the news, and he wanted to do a segment on me. So about 3 months after my book hit, I was on Channel 9 News, and then the month after that, I was on Channel 13, and then about 3 months after that, I was on Channel 10. So
I love it. I love it because it's out there now, and
right.
that anchor, whoever reached out to you, and those subsequent afterwards, they realized that this is a situation that needed to have the exposure,
Right.
um, and I'm glad that they did. Now, what's the time frame from when you? How long did it take you to write the? Because this was this the first book?
Yeah, the first book, The Mask Behind the Mask. That one took me, I would say, probably a year. Because as I wrote these, this is when I was going through the program called Unity House, which between writing the poems, going to therapy, going to counseling, plus I was doing this art group in the process of my healing. So, just going through all the new chapters, I could say, taking the steps of cleaning up the mess and taking off the mask. And that's where the title came from, because the first book was called The Mask Behind the Mask, because so many times we have that face behind the face. And every time people see it, they're like, the mask behind the mask. They was like, that's deep. And I said, it is, because it's my story. Because
Yeah.
you'll see me and I look happy, normal, like everything's okay. But during that process, I was still fixing my brokenness. I was still healing, the parts that was still hurting. I was still putting back the pieces of going through that trauma, dealing with PTSD, anxiety, depression, feeling that, putting the worth of who I am back together. And as I went through this method, the title of The Mask Behind the Mask came together, because you look at me and don't know that I deal with these conditions as far as my illnesses either, because they're invisible. So my wordplay for that is the fact that so many times you see people and don't know what their brokenness may be. You don't know
Mm-mm.
what they may be dealing with. You don't know what they may be facing at home, or the cards they may be dealt. So my thing is to let people know that you can cry, you can be unhappy, but you can be sad. But what are you going to do next? How are we going to pick up those pieces and put the mask on and put that broken pieces back together? Be able to color like that broken crayon. Be able to be comfortable in our own skin, because a lot of times part of that brokenness started when we were younger. Part of that brokenness was defeated us before we started our real grown life. And we got to
Mm-hmm.
clean up that mess. So we got to take off the mask and be comfortable and get uncomfortable to be comfortable.
Oh, we now y'all see, y'all who listening now or who gonna listen later, y'all understand why I wanted to have her on. Um, this is no joke. This is serious. This is good stuff. Your title, "The Mask Behind the Mask," "The Lady Behind the Mask," it reminds me of some of those commercials, and the way you just described it, and mentioned
Mhm.
about how it came to be reminds me of those commercials. I'm sure you've probably seen them. I mean, I'm in the Midwest. Sometimes they show these commercials with the individual. They're going throughout their life or whatever,
Mhm.
and they may be walking down the street and they'll hold up a little,
The
face,
mask thing.
smiling.
Mhm.
Yep, a mask.
Mhm.
It's like a smiling face, but then you put it away there like this.
Mhm.
They're depressed, they're sad, they don't want to,
Right.
be around other people because of things that they've gone through, or they just can't handle it. And so that, from what you were just saying, it kind of reminds me of that particular commercial. Now, of course, that commercial is advertising something to take, for their
Yeah.
depression or whatever.
Russian. Correct.
But yeah, but you've taken your journey, you've taken what you have experienced, and put it in black and white for the world to see, for the world to learn from, understand, that they're not alone. With what it is that they're dealing with, whether it's the domestic violence or the illnesses that you have faced. And so I applaud you for that. Now, I'm looking here, and let's see. Okay, it says, so over the course of 3 years, you've authored numerous titles, both individually and in collaboration with others. So your debut book, which we just talked about, "The Mask Behind the Mask," it's a collection of poetry that encourages readers to embrace their imperfections and find beauty in their daily experiences. So now, "The Mask Behind the Mask," you said you were able to share about your own. You got deep down, and you got him down with it, right, to talk about what you experienced. This says this is a collection of poetry. Why did you choose to go that route?
Mhm. Well, I've been a poet since I was 12. That's I've been expressing poetry since 12 years old. So I think I just like the word semantics. And the way I write poetry is not like, oh, it has to rhyme. My poetry is just pure how you feel and
Okay.
motivating people to feel better. It's more of a conversation with words of type of poetry. It's not like, you know how people use the word play and they gotta coordinate and gotta rhyme later. No, mine
Right.
is just this is, yeah.
It's just okay. Man, now you described that so perfectly, and that's good. Again, you've taken what you were used to. You know how we talked about earlier about you saying you were always the quiet one growing
Mhm.
up. So that's what you did. You didn't say anything about it. Now you've taken what you have normally done, poetry, and put it in a book and made it just so plain and clear for us, right?
Yeah,
Um,
sure did.
that takes a lot of skill and wisdom as well. So then you moved on to, I think, unveiled pieces of a broken mask. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, that is the second book. Yes.
Okay, and then this says this one it goes deeper into the baggage people carry from their past.
Yeah.
Ooh, guiding them towards liberation or freedom. Man, that in itself, okay, the description of that book is, we could talk about that all day long. How many of us
Right.
have come into relationships or situations with baggage, you know? Um,
Right. Hmm.
Maybe because of past hurt or what have you. Were you, I mean, I know that this probably was, inspired, of course, still by what you experienced. But what did you expect to get from this book? When I penned this book, what?
See, with this book, it's not just poetry. I give you questions in there to actually ask yourself about your mask. That's why it's called unveiling the pieces of the mask. We gonna talk
Okay.
about the baggages because I have something that talk about baggages. I have something, a conversation, and they're talking about trust issues. Then after that, it has questions to ask you about all that. In the midst of
Yeah.
that, I give you some affirmations to encourage you besides the poems. Then I also give you a space in the back to journal with more questions so that you can work through
Hmm.
your mess. So it's like a book that gives you the space to work through your mess on your time.
Gotcha. Okay. And which, if you like me, sometimes I don't need a whole bunch of folks around when I'm trying to figure out what's going on, or
Right,
trying to address
right.
situations. So that's good for them to have that, in their possession, be able to take their time to go through it. Um, wow, I love that. I gotta get a copy of that one. That's good. That's good stuff right there. Um, if you guys are just now joining us, it's we're about 30 minutes in, and we are talking today with my guest, uh, Sheena. I had to think about it.
Yeah.
Sheena is here with us on today, and Sheena is an empowerment advocate and inspirational author. She took what she dealt with domestic violence and her own health conditions, 4 different health conditions, and but she took it, and how they say you take make lemonade out of lemons, so she didn't say, oh, woe is me. I mean, she may have, I don't know, but she sure turned it around. Sometimes we ask God, why God, and then some people say, well,
Listen,
maybe you can say,
I had those bathroom look, I had those conversations too, but I had to decide if I was gonna sit and wallow in it or if I was
yeah.
gonna do something different. And I needed something different because even when I was going through this program and I seen how people still was angry after going through domestic violence, they still was like letting their abuser have a part of their mind renting space. And I wasn't trying to let nobody rent no space for free in my head. I wanted a
That's it.
mindset change. I wanted something different for me. And one, I was a mother of two girls. So I was determined not to allow my daughters to feel any blood from me because I was bleeding. I had to heal to make sure they can heal so that I can break the generational curse. I was determined to not allow them to feel that they are going to be hurt from my pain because I seen it being passed over. I didn't want to be that one. I didn't want to be
Yeah.
that mother that my child felt my pain because I was mad at myself or angry and frustrated at something else, or I waited on a forgiveness from somebody that wasn't going to give it to me. I accepted my part. I accepted what I allowed, and I took charge and took my power back to let them know that they mama stand for nothing but greatness, that she has power. She will show up for them and show up for herself, and she will show up for the people that can't show up for themselves. So now I took the voice for the people that can't speak. When I wasn't speaking, someone else spoke for me. So now it's my turn to speak for those that can or those that won't, and show them how to take that walk and find the next sunshine on the other side.
Ooh, wee. I love it. But I also love how you said that you had your moments. You didn't come out of those horrible
No,
experiences and go straight to the top. You
no,
had to, there were levels, I'm sure. There
yeah,
were, for you to get to. And thanks for being transparent and saying that, because sometimes people are like, oh, whatever, she's all this or she's all that. And,
no, no,
but I'm still down here in the valley and I can't get there yet, whatever. So it's good for you to share again those experiences. I always say, and people know, I always say, our journey is not for us alone. It is
right,
not. It is, God has things, in his plan. He has, sometimes we'll be like, why am I going through this? We don't see the big picture yet, though,
right,
because God could be, organizing it so you can help somebody else. He's not
right,
going to leave you out there, but he's going to make sure that, what you've done, dealt with, learned from can help someone else. So that's
absolutely,
wonderful. And I'm glad you got to the point where you were saying, you know, I want this to be broken. I don't want this to pass on to my girls, because it very well could easily be that way.
right,
For whatever reason, they could,
hmm,
God forbid, come in contact with somebody who abuses them,
right,
in any kind of way, and you just don't want that to happen. So this is, girl, honey. I know your journey was not for you alone, because you have definitely inspired individuals. Now let's go further, because you have um, another book, Evolution of the Mask, and I
yes,
believe Evolution of the Mask, is that the book cover you sent me? Is that the one?
yes, this one,
Okay, all
hmm,
right. So Evolution in the Mask, Power in Me, which is a
hmm,
children's book. Thank you.
correct,
Uh, and Come Learn A to Z with Me.
correct.
Okay, let me jump to Power in Me, and then Come Learn A to Z with Me. Tell me about those, and then I'm going to go back to Evolution of the Mask.
Absolutely. So, The Power of Me is a book for children that inspires them to dream big and to, know that regardless of where they come from, what they've been through, that the power is within them. It's a book that's filled with, the characters of my kids. I actually made my daughters the characters and the kids in there, talking to a group of kids to let them know that, regardless of what they go through, big, small, or tall, they can, love who they are. The powers within them. And, the message is basically for kids to know that regardless of what they go through, they can be the president of the United States if they want to. They just have to work for it and know that the power is within them. And I also made my daughters the co-authors of that book as well. So, it was a way for me tapping into the younger generation, allowing
Yeah.
them to know that, it starts with them. It's so many times you see kids, like I did a workshop not too long ago, and some of these kids don't really know how great they are or to believe in themselves or how strong they are. So I knew that I needed to write something to empower these kids to know that they are worthy.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
as I've hit about 20 schools. It's exciting to be able to go to the hack them and let
Mm-hmm.
them know how great they are. Like, I'll never forget one day I was in the store with my daughter buying some hair because I'm about to braid her hair. And this little girl was like, "Hi, I remember you." And I was like, "Hi." I was like, "Where do you remember me from?" She was like, "Oh, you came to my class. You read the book, The Power in Me." I said, "Oh, that's great. That's so awesome." But to get that knows that she was paying attention. That means that I'm doing what I need to do for these kids that are our future generations that need to hear that they are powerful, and to be able to pour into the kids and drop those nuggets and seeds. You know how they say all you need is a mustard seed, and you got to start somewhere. So I'm planting those seeds early. So later on in life, they might be like, oh, I remember that book. And it might give them some empowerment. So, empowering me was a great way to start. And then come and learn your A's to Z is more for the newborns and the little kids. They get to learn their uppercase and lowercase
Yeah.
letters and stuff.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna have Miss Sheena. She's gonna take a break real quick. But I tell you what, I want to encourage each of you that are watching to make sure that oh my goodness, I want to post her book because you want to connect with her. We're going to have her make sure when she comes back to let us know where we can find her. She's on Instagram. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram as the lady behind the mask. And again, this is definitely part of her, the books that she has written. And oh, goodness, if you're just not joining me, my goodness, all that she has talked about already, it should be an inspiration to each of you. Let me read this. Okay, so she's authored The Mask Behind the Mask. We've talked about that already, a collection of poetry, and that was her debut book. Then she wrote Unveiled Pieces of a Broken Mask, and it talks about baggage and individuals in relationships and how to become free. Then she wrote Evolution of the Mask, Power in Me, and Come Learn A to Z with Me. Power in Me and Come Learn A to Z with Me is what she was just discussing. And then we're going to talk about Evolution of the Mask when she comes back. Now, we wanted to feature Miss Sheena on today because she has taken her journey. It says that her life took an unexpected turn when she had to deal with domestic violence and also 4 different health conditions that she was dealing with. She didn't stop. Yeah, she had her moments where she probably felt like giving up, but she took it and she turned it with the help of God, turned it around to help not only her daughters, and then those that will hear her. So let me bring her back in. Miss Sheena, all right, she's
Yes,
back with
yes,
us. All right, so this is good stuff. So I just kind of did a recap of your books. So the Come Learn A to Z with Me, I think that was the last one you were talking about, and you said that's kind of for the babies,
yes.
the infants.
It's for them to learn the upper and lowercase letters, but it's not like the normal A for ant. Oh, I had to put a special twist on it. It was like A for ant, but A for amazing. B for bat, but B for bravo. C for cat, but C for courage. And there's a way to plant the seeds early to get them inspired and give them that empowerment, the motivation, and that inspiration early to
Yeah.
know that they are amazing, that they're fabulous, that they're honest, they're joyful, they're happy. Because a lot of times these kids might not have people dropping these nuggets in them. So I want to inspire them as babies to give them that encouragement
Yes.
that they are great every single day of their life.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now let me take a pause right here. I want them to know where to find you. Where can they connect with you? I know you're on social media. What platforms are you on? And as you're talking, I'm going to try and type it into the comment section for you.
Okay. So, on Facebook, it's my first last name, which is Shana Gourdine, spelling SHANA GOURDINE.
Okay.
Also, you can find me on Instagram at Lady Behind the Mask 22. You can find me on TikTok as Sheena Author 22. You can find me on LinkedIn as Sheena Unmasking Motivation. And I think that's all my platform. Oh, and you can just always find me on my email and my website, which is www.sheenaunmastingmotivation.com. And my email is escadine16@gmail.com.
Okay, now y'all know I'm gonna have to have her repeat some of that stuff, right? She went so fast. Okay, so
I
Instagram, Lady
sorry.
Behind the Mask 22.
22. Correct.
Okay. And that's IG. And on Facebook,
Yep.
guys, she's her name Sheena, spelled SHANA
A N.
GOURDINE. All right. And then what's your email?
My email is sgoodine16@gmail.com.
S Gourdine. I like when she says that. 16 at Gmail.
It's French.
I
Gmail.com.
see.
It's
Okay,
French.
I see. I see you. I see you, girl. All right. So, in the comments section, we're going to have her information where you can contact her. And then, so as far as your books are concerned, um, are they able to go to where can they go for your books? Do they email you? Is there a
They could
website?
either they could do there's a website, they can email, or they can go to Amazon. It's all up to them. But my website is www.sheenaunmaskingmotivation.com.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me get that. All right.
Okay.
www. Dot Sheena.
Sheena un, Sheena unmasking
Mm-hmm.
motivation.com.
I hope I got that right.
If
Sheena.
not, I'll go check and I'll correct it later. If not, I'll go check later.
Right.
I'll check to make sure.
Right. Right. Right.
But worst case scenario, they can always inbox me. They can hit me up on my email. I speak to everybody, so they can just hit me up. I'm perfectly fine with the inbox and asking for the book. Listen, I sell my book in McDonald's driveway. It don't even matter. So, but
I love it. I love it. So if you see on the screen, guys, I'm flashing. I had to do it in two different comments. So you can contact her at on Facebook with her name, Sheena, and then also Instagram, Lady Behind the Mask 22. That's her handle on Instagram. Or you can email her at SGOURDINE16 or if you're trying to purchase those wonderful books, go to her website, SheenaUnmaskingMotivation.com. All right. And trust me, you wanna check that out because now all of your books are on there, right?
besides the last one, the children's book, I gotta post it up. But all the rest of them are there.
Okay, we're gonna let me see if I can share your website on the screen as we're talking. Um, but yeah, so because this is, I want them to be able to connect with you. I want them to be able to see. Let me hide this. Who you are here. All right, so this is her website, guys. I did type it right. All right, and so beautiful pictures. So I'm just scrolling down just so you guys can see her
Thank you.
website and some of her interviews, I believe, are on here. And then down here at the bottom, we see her books: Unveil Pieces of a Broken Mask, The Mask Behind the Mask, The Power in Me. I love that cover. Masking in Your Brokenness. Okay. So I think we have everything on here except
That's the
the
book I won
evolution
for.
of the mask. Oh, right.
Yep,
Okay.
that
Okay.
and come and learn your
Cool.
A's is you with me.
Oh, love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. And then there's a little area down here where you can contact her and reach out to her, ask her a question on her website. So make sure you go to unmaskingmotivation.com. All right, guys. You do not want to you don't want to miss that. I want you to make sure you get in contact with her because she's got some great stuff going on. All right, evolution of the mask. Before I need to
Yes.
hear about evolution of the mask. Um, because obviously, the theme in all of your books is the mask. All right. So
Right.
how do we get to the evolution of the mask? What's the backstory behind this book?
Well, the backstory to evolution mask, after going through, you put the mask on them, and then I'm teaching you, because like I said, it had to go in steps. I had to tell you that you were sitting in your mess. I had to help you take it off. So now it's time for me to show up and teach you how to show up after your glow up, unapologetically free and loving who you are. You have now showed up as that powerful individual after masking through this storm, after going through this journey, after understanding that the power is in you. And it's like, listen, I am here authentically being who I am,
Wow.
unapologetically.
Wow. Wow. That's deep. That's deep right there. Okay. Whoo, evolution of the mask. This is me. Take it or leave it.
Come here, come here.
Yep, yep. All right, so let's see. Now go over again which books that you won awards for.
I won the book for Masking in Your Brokenness for the DAG Awards, but then that was the last book for the anthropology that I did with four other people.
Okay, okay, all right, okay. Because I see some more
That's
accomplishments
who I'm
down
going to
here.
interview, Mr. Romero.
I see some more accomplishments
Um,
down there. You're a 10-time
yeah,
bestseller and an international bestseller on Amazon.
yes, yes.
Uh,
That was for like all the other books that I was in. Because remember, I've done about 40. Oh, I've been like in like about 40 different anthropologies. So being in all those anthropologies, I've hit international, I've hit bestsellers. So, just being in all those things have, accomplished me to hit bestseller. And I've, actually with my project with the masculine and your brokenness, we hit number 2 as in new release on Amazon. So that was fun and exciting. On top of
yeah,
that, I've won the award for the Art and Culture Award through the YWCA. I've gotten the Purple Heart Award through of Courage through Unity House. I've gotten 2 nominations for the children's book that I did with my daughters. They actually got Youth of the Year, and then I also got children's book. I actually won an award with the children's book with the kids. So, it's a way to be able to inspire them through this journey that, hey, it's not about the accolades, but know that they see you.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's true. That's very true. I love it. Yeah. Okay.
You know,
And even to be nominated for different things, yeah,
and
that means they
right.
see you.
Right. And the list goes on because I think, listen, the list goes on. If I actually go through all my list of accolades, we'll be here all day because my whole shelf is it's full. I've gotten Woman of the Year. I've gotten, woman. I've gotten 2 different I Am She awards, which is Woman on the Rise and Woman
Yeah.
Influencer. So, like I said, I have the accolades, but I think my most when I say the accomplishments is not even the trophies or the awards, is being able with Sheena and Master Motivation to go into the shelter and work with those women and men or children and being able to do the workshops with them and to teach them empowerment and be able to walk through the journey with them of getting their confidence back, learning how to
Okay.
trust again, healing through that process, teaching them that, they don't have to wait on forgiveness, finding peace, knowing what happiness is, giving them that encouragement that, I was where you are and you can be where I am, but it takes work. Being transparent that, yeah, I had nightmares. I had the anxiety of, when I seen somebody that was my attacker, that I still get sweats and, get anxiety or, having the thing PTSD and when you seeing something that it triggers, like, taking them through that walk and that
Yeah.
journey to have them tell me when they see me, like, I remember when you came and talked to me and you gave me the confidence to go get a new apartment, or giving them the confidence to take their life back, or taking them to take the steps of going through the mission that they need to go through because they seen I did it.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
what I love.
Okay. I was about to ask you what is has been your most. You talked about all these accolades that you've received, which congratulations to you, and I think that's wonderful. What is your most rewarding thing that you've ever received, or whether it was you seeing something, receiving something? What's the most rewarding thing that you've ever experienced?
I would definitely say going back to the shelter, I was actually there doing a speaking event, and I had this woman who came to me and she said, Sheena, I want you to know that you helped me take my life back. I helped her she one changed her name because her abuser was still, dealing with her. So she had to go and change her government name and being able to step back into a normal life, because so many times they are afraid to go back to reality because all those triggers start happening when you're alone. So being
Yeah.
able to hear that I have empowered so many individuals to take the moment of taking of the broken pieces and to fix it back. Like I've besides her, I've had somebody that end up inboxing me and was like, I watch you for a long time. And this is another thing I like to teach people. What you doing, don't ever think that it's not doing nothing for nobody just because they might not be saying nothing. There is somebody that is watching you and using everything you say, because I had several people that's inboxed me and was like, "Hey, I've been watching you. I might have not said nothing on your podcast, or I might have not commented, but you gave me the strength to heal my brokenness, or being able to take their power back." So being able to do these things without knowing you doing it is my greatest accomplishment. And this is why
Beautiful.
I continue to show up consistently, irregardless on if I got 1,000 fans watching or if I got zero fans watching. I'm showing up because it's somebody that's attached to this testimony. It's somebody that's attached to this story, and it's somebody that's attached to this story. I realized that my journey wasn't for me as I went through this because, like I said, I don't look like what I've been through. You know,
Mm-mm.
I might have been through a lot, but if you hear my story, you'll look at me, but like, you don't look like you've been through that, because I'm not supposed to look like that. I've gotten grace. I've gotten
Yeah.
mercy. I've gotten carried through this journey because this message and this purpose was bigger for me. It,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, like you said, I might have sat and swallowed. When I first found out about my conditions or just dealing with life in general, I went through that mission of, why am I dealing with this? Why am I still, why did I get these diseases? Because being healthy as a horse and never having issues, then all of a sudden you having all these pains and all these discrepancies, you want to ask these questions why. But I had to learn to stop asking why and ask, what can I do?
Yeah. 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 That's beautiful.
It was given to me to help me to impact people, because when I started talking about my domestic violence and when I started talking about my conditions, I had people reaching out to me and asking what could they do, or what could they eat different. I had people from Canada and Australia and internationally asking me about my conditions because they were having the same symptoms I was talking about. And
Okay.
to be able to help people through this journey of not understanding, because when you go through these conditions, you'll have doctors that look at you like you crazy because you don't look like something's wrong with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you don't look like you in pain, or they don't see what you feeling, they'll be like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you." Because for the first, what, 3 to 4 years of my life going through this condition, they kept telling me they didn't see anything wrong. I was going through different specialists, different doctors, pain management, ortho, all sorts of regular doctors, MRIs, and etc. And they looking at me like, "I don't know why you here. Ain't nothing wrong with you. I don't see anything." Like, I had a doctor that literally told me that they think I should go to therapy because they think I'm just stressing and they don't see nothing. And I said, "You not about to, the devil fooled you, because I know it's something wrong with me." So I continue to be a big advocate for myself, and I continued on my journey to let people know, you're not gonna tell me that nothing's wrong with me, because you don't see what I'm dealing with. So to be able to
Yeah.
tell people that, continue to be a big advocate for themselves, to tell people that they have to fight through, what's going on with them. Because a lot of times people try to steer you in a different direction. And that goes with life, to be able to fight for what you know and to fight for
Mm-hmm.
who you are. Because actually going through domestic violence, they try to make you feel crazy too.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll
Mm-hmm.
have your narcissistic partners that try to make it be you, not them.
Right.
So all
Right.
of it coincides, and this is why I am the inspirator, the empowerer, and the motivator. And we have to motivate through our self worth, our self knowledge, and our self encouragement to know who we are, stand for who we are, and be forceful about what we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love your spirit. I love it. I love what you are doing. And when you go out to these different places, like you said, you've gone back and tried to help individuals, you're not necessarily pushing your book. You're just trying to help them. Is that true?
Absolutely. Most of the time, I'm not even pushing my book. A lot of times, my book is there as a display, and I can say the purpose pushes it because people say, "Oh, how can I get it?" But I don't go there and say, "Hey, let me sell you a book." I actually use my book as a way of talking about what I've been through and the
Okay.
message. Like my Unveil the Broken Piece of Mask, I actually use that in a couple of my workshops, and helping them break
Mhm.
down the pieces. I talk about the trust issues in my workshops, or we talk about baggages in my workshops and stuff like that. Like I take pieces out of the poems and talk about it in there, and then somebody be like, "Hey, can I get a book?" But my first mission is not my book. My book is another product, but it's a way to empower people through words. So and then I did an album as well. So if I'm not tapping you through your eyes, I'm gonna tap you through your ears. And I actually just won an award for one of my songs called Not Anymore as well through the WAM Awards for this year. So being able to, because the album I did was called I Was Always a Rose in the Darkness of Love, which was five poetry pieces with, music behind it.
Okay.
And, sometimes people might not want to read. So if I can tap in through their ears to get them empowered to know that not anymore, and then let them know that they dope, or, just basically teaching them how to show up for who they are, why not? So between the books, the podcasts, and the music, it's like, hey, I got a tap from all angles.
Yeah, you do. You do. Wonderful. This has been tremendous. This has been tremendous. I encourage you to keep going. I bid you Godspeed and just pray that God will just continue to bless you because He's already doing it, and He's bestowing different things upon you, accolades and awards and whatever. But I believe He's doing that because He sees your heart, that you want to pay it forward, that you want to help others, that you want to focus on getting others help, because what you've experienced, what you've dealt with.
Right.
And so you can just about imagine what somebody else is doing. So I thank you for what you're doing. And again, I just encourage you to keep going. My sister, you're my queen. You're doing it. You're doing it. This is wonderful. You guys, again, Sheena has been my guest on today. She's an empowerment advocate and inspirational author. Her theme with her books, talking about the mask, and you need to go. I had actually posted or allowed you to see her website where you can get her books, but they can they also reach out and to you to see if you can come out for speaking engagements on your website?
Absolutely. Yes, they
Okay.
can.
All right, guys, I encourage you, please make sure you do that. This is someone that you need to have at your conferences, events. She's been through it. She's been through domestic violence. She's dealt with, four different health conditions in her body, and she's still pushing. She's still encouraging others. If you look at the bottom of the screen, ShanaMaskinMotivation.com is her website. You can also email her, SGOURDINE16 at gmail.com. Make sure you reach out to her and connect with her. She loves to connect with individuals, and she loves to help. Shana, thank you again. I appreciate you. Thank you so
It's always
much.
a pleasure.
Yes, that we're going to have to make sure we do some more connecting. She has a
Absolutely.
podcast. She's out. She's speaking. She's inspiring. She's advocating. So when I see individuals that are doing that, I definitely want to continue to connect with them and continue to promote and push them. So I bid you guys meet again, and I pray that you have a wonderful day. Thank you
You
again.
too. Thank you as
All right.
always.
All right. All right, guys. As she's exiting out, yeah, I'm telling you, this has been a great session on today. If those of you who are joining us now, you may have to go back and rewind and listen to this entire segment at your leisure. Um, Take time out to listen to her talk about her journey, listen to how she dealt with domestic violence and those four different health conditions, and all the different books that she has out. The Mask Behind the Mask, Unveil Pieces of a Broken Mask, also Evolution of the Mask, of course, Power in Me, a children's book, and Come Learn A to Z with Me. For someone to take the horrible things in their life and to turn it around, I believe God is pleased. I believe God is pleased, and He's going to continue to bless her in that respect. And some of you can probably relate to her and to her journey. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here today. And I do want to encourage you to make sure that you stick with us for the rest of the month of December. We have 2 more sessions. One next week will be the 13th. We're going to bring back our Wisdom Wednesday segment. We started off the beginning of the year following God's lead. He said to add another segment entitled Wisdom Wednesday. And we started off in January with Dr. Lord Michael Hunt. I felt led to ask him to come back to end us with this year with Wisdom Wednesday segment. We've had other individuals that we featured throughout the year, but we started off and we're ending with Dr. Lord Michael Hunt, So-Called Global Nation. And I'm telling you, if you all haven't heard of him, if you haven't listened to him, you are missing something, but you're in for a treat on next week. And then, of course, Dr. Shirley Hill will end us up in December with our monthly health and wellness segment. What we're doing this year, we're pushing her up a week because the last week, of course, is the week of Christmas. So we won't air anything live unless the Lord says different. But Dr. Shirley Hill will be on with us the following week, which will be the 20th of December. All right. So stick with us as we end this year. We want to end it on a high note. We want to end it on the same note that God set us up with the theme for this being there is hope. Hashtag there is hope. There is hope. And hopefully you have remembered that throughout this year. I'm sure you've probably been through a number of things on this year, maybe some situations or circumstances that you didn't even imagine that you would be. But you have to remember that God said there is hope. So be encouraged. Look at our next session promo, and we will see you soon on the next session of Get Caught in a Net.
Get caught in a net with Annette. For your mind, body, and soul. Get caught in a net with Annette. It's your intellectual radio show. Here to inspire you and encourage you to be your very best. Get caught in a net with Annette. Get caught in a net with Annette.